Welcome to Christ's Unique Occasion from the Reappearance of the Christ by Alice Bailey on Words of Wisdom. Alice Bailey was an extraordinary British-American esoteric author of the 20th century. She was one of the first to use the term New Age, referring to a better future for the world that fulfills the divine plan of love and light. Born in 1880, Alice Bailey in her youth was a devoted Christian who later developed an extensive knowledge and practice of theosophy. In 1919, at the age of 39, she began a spiritual journey of inner telepathic communications with the great ascended master Djwhal Khul, also called the Tibetan or Master D.K. Over the next 3 decades, until the end of her life, the Master thus transmitted ancient teachings of the ageless wisdom to his chosen disciple, which she diligently recorded as 19 books. In addition, Alice Bailey wrote other profound books on her own. In 1922, Alice Bailey and her husband Foster Bailey founded the Lucis Trust and the Arcane School to offer the teachings and meditation guidance to the public. The non-profit Lucis Trust is still active today and continues to publish Alice Bailey's works, including free e-books for people to study in this special period of our planet. We will now read an excerpt from Alice Bailey's Chapter 2, Christ's Unique Occasion, from her book entitled The Reappearance of the Christ. As Christ reappears on earth, there are certain signs and conditions paving the path towards fulfilling the divine plan for our world. Chapter 2, Christ's Unique Occasion, the World Today. The present time is unique in that it is, as never before, a cycle or period of conferences, communal, national and international, and of men getting together. Clubs, forums, committees, conferences and leagues are forming everywhere for the discussion and study of human welfare and liberation. This phenomenon is one of the strongest indications that the Christ is on his way. He is the embodiment of freedom and the messenger of liberation. He stimulates the group spirit and the group consciousness, and his spiritual energy is the attractive force, binding men together for the common good. His reappearance will knit and bind together all men and women of goodwill throughout the world, irrespective of religion or nationality. His coming will evoke among men a widespread and mutual recognition of the good in all. This is part of the uniqueness of his coming, and for it we are already preparing. A study of the daily press will prove this. It is the invocative appeal of the many groups working on behalf of humanity, consciously or unconsciously made, which will bring him forth. Those who carry out this great act of invocation are the spiritually minded people, the enlightened statesmen, the religious leaders, and the men and women whose hearts are full of goodwill. They will evoke him if they can stand with massed intent, with hope and with expectancy. This preparatory work must be focused through and implemented by the world intelligentsia and leading lovers of humanity, by groups dedicated to human betterment, and by representative, unselfish people. The success of the effort now being planned by Christ and the spiritual hierarchy is dependent upon the ability of mankind to use what light it already has in order to establish right relations in their families, their community, in their nation, and in the world. There is, therefore, this unique difference between the expected coming of the Christ and the time when he came before. The world is full of groups working for human welfare. This effort, in the light of past eons of human history, is a relatively new thing, and for it the Christ must prepare, and with this trend he will have to work. The cycle of conferences, which is now swinging into full tide, is part of the unique condition with which the Christ is faced. Before, however, Christ could come with his disciples, our present civilization had to die. During the coming century, we shall begin to learn the meaning of the word resurrection, and the new age will begin to reveal its deep purpose and intention. The first step will be the emergence of humanity from the death of its civilization, of its old ideas and modes of living, the relinquishing of its materialistic goals and its damning selfishness, and its moving forward into the clear light of the resurrection. These are not symbolical or mystical words, but part of the general setting which will surround the period of Christ's reappearance. It is a cycle as real as a cycle of conferences, now so busily organizing. Christ taught us when he came before the true meaning of renunciation or of the crucifixion. This time his message will be concerned with the resurrection life. The present cycle of conferences is preparing men everywhere for relationships. Even though today they may seem widely divergent in nature, the important factor is the general human interest and thought about establishing the need, the objectives involved, the means to be employed. The resurrection period, which the Christ will inaugurate and which will constitute his unique work, within which all his other activities will have their place, will be the outcome of the fermentation and the germination going on in the world of men at this time, of which the many conferences are the outer evidence. It was these various unique conditions which the Christ faced during the years of war, when the need of humanity forced him to decide to hasten his coming. The unhappy state of the world as a result of centuries of selfishness and of the world war, the unique sensitivity which men everywhere were showing as a result of the evolutionary process, the unique spread of knowledge about the spiritual hierarchy, and the unique development of group consciousness, showing itself on every hand in the multiplicity of conferences, confronted Christ with his unique occasion and presented him with a decision which he could not avoid. Reverently, we might say that in this occasion of the Christ's, two facts were involved, and that both of them are difficult for man to understand. The fact of the synchronization of his will with that of the Father, and the fact that this synchronization led to a basic decision, must be recognized by us. It is not easy for the average Christian to realize that the Christ passes on steadily to increasingly potent experiences, and that in his divine experience there is nothing static or permanent except his unalterable love for humanity. It was the dawning of this significance of the will of God upon the consciousness of the Christ which led him to certain great decisions, and which forced him to cry out, "Father, not my will, but thine be done." These words definitely indicate conflict, and do not indicate the synchronization of the two wills. They indicate the determination on the part of the Christ that there should be no opposition between his will and that of God. Suddenly, he received a vision of the emerging divine intention for humanity, and through humanity, for the planet as a whole. At the particular stage of spiritual development which Christ had then attained, and which had made him the head of the spiritual hierarchy, the one who engineered the emergence of the kingdom of God and established him as the master of all the masters and the teacher of angels and of men. His consciousness was absolutely at one with the divine plan. Its application on earth and its goal of establishing the kingdom of God and the appearance of the fifth kingdom in nature was simply for him the fulfilling of the law, and to that fulfillment his entire life was and had been geared. The plan, its goal, its techniques and its laws, its energy, that of love, and the close and growing relation between the spiritual hierarchy and humanity were known to him and fully understood. At the highest point of this consummated knowledge, and at the moment of his complete surrender to the necessary sacrifice of his life to the fulfilling of this plan, suddenly a great expansion of consciousness took place. The significance, the intention, the purpose of it all, and the comprehensive divine idea, as it existed in the mind of the Father, dawned upon his soul, not on his mind, for the revelation was far greater than that. He saw still further into the meaning of divinity than had ever before seemed possible. The world of meaning and the world of phenomena faded out, and esoterically speaking, he lost his all. For more details and the full online version of Alice Bailey's book, The Reappearance of the Christ, please visit lucistrust.org. Mindful viewers, it was an honor to have your company for today's words of wisdom.